Good Erev Shabbos, everybody. This week, my uncle Sheldon Fliegelman passed away. He's my mother's only brother. And he was a very remarkable individual. Somebody who, behind the scenes in the Jewish world, made a tremendous impact, and yet you won't see much or anything about him in the news. And that's unfortunate. Maybe because of COVID is part of the reason. Also because of that he's been retired for a number of years. But the impact that he had within the Jewish world should not be minimized. My uncle Sheldon Fliegelman started off his career actually as those stories that people say of somebody who got fired for keeping Shabbos. He actually was on the startup of a major supermarket chain, one of the biggest in the world, and he was when it first started. And they came to him and they asked him to work on Shabbos, and he said, "I'll give you my all, but I'm not going to work on Friday." And the guy said, "Well, if you don't take it that seriously, so then maybe this is not the right job for you." He left, and the person later came back at a dinner that my uncle was hosting, and he apologized. My uncle was a fundraiser, and a fundraiser for he headed up fundraising for some of the biggest tzedakahs in the Jewish world. He started out with the ADL, and he did that for most of his life. He was the head fundraiser of the ADL, bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars. He turned the ADL into a small organization into this major organization. Today, we just hear about it here and there, but ADL was a tremendous organization. He knew all the presidents, and he would meet with all the big leaders. And as a kid, it was very intimidating. He was a very intimidating person in general, very big individual physically, and a larger than life individual. I remember we went to a dinner he invited me to a dinner honoring the heads of Ringling Brothers and the Barnum and Bailey Circus, in which we had clowns at each table. So the clowns sat and entertained us, then we could talk to them the whole night. And then they brought elephants and trapeze people into the Waldorf, and they did their shtick for us. It was a pretty amazing thing, and he did this all the time. He had all these great leaders and so on. Sheldon Edelson called him the other Sheldon, but he was a big wig in fundraising. And after he left the ADL, he went to the OU, because the ADL really was not the same organization. He didn't necessarily see the same mission that he saw before, and he moved to the OU, and he helped build them up to their small fundraising to something really great. He helped out a lot of other organizations, the Mitzvah Project, many organizations. He helped them build themselves up to where they became something special. Somebody behind the scenes that you don't hear about, but really made a massive impact within the Jewish world. In this week's parsha, we read in Parshas Mishpatim. See the little court there, but we read in Mishpatim that it's up to us to worry about the people within our community who can't take care of themselves, and part of that is to be able to give out loans to individuals. Now, when somebody gives out a loan to somebody who you can't pay back, so that you feel pressure, especially if you can't afford to give out that loan. And so the Torah tells us that somebody could take a collateral, you could take something off the person to make sure that they pay back, but you have to give it to them. If it's clothing, you have to give it to them back so they could do their job, so they can make the money to pay you back. And then the Torah tells us that if the person screams out, if it's the person you take this collateral from him and he screams out to Hashem, so it says, but v'haya ki yitzak alai v'shamati ki chanun ani, that I'm going to remember that. Hashem's going to say, look, if you're mean to this other person, you don't take care of them when they're in the needy, so Hashem's going to remember that, even though you're doing them a chesed. The Ramban on this mentions that who is it? What is a chanun? What does it mean? It means it's somebody who you feel they don't deserve it. Like if it's somebody who's a name and you're lending them money, so then you go, okay, they're just going through a hard patch, but I have mercy. But here you have somebody who they're not they're no, they're like nobody in your eyes, right? And they brought this upon themselves. So the Ramban says that Hashem's going to listen to them because you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. And the Hashem will hear that person's cries if you make them feel less than they are, and add to their struggles. My uncle was somebody who did hear cries all the time, not only from big tzedakahs, but he heard from individuals who. He would always make connections, trying to get people jobs. He was always the type of person that would call if somebody was sick, even if he didn't hear from you for a while. He would call people. He was somebody who really cared about the individual. He was a tough person. Don't get me wrong. He would speak his mind and he would be tough on individuals. But when it came down to needs, there was nobody else you would want by their side. And he was a special individual in that sense, and he really made a great impact within the Jewish world, and he'll be missed by us and really the whole Jewish world. So we should all really strive to be something like that, where we can also make our impact on something that we have a talent in, and we could use it to help impact the Jewish world. And on that note, I wish you all a great Shabbos.